Hi, everybody. My name's Adam Spur, and I'm the General Manager of the Business Applications Practice here at A&S. Firstly, wanted to extend a very warm welcome to everybody who's joined the A&S Digital Dinner. For those who haven't been to a A&S dinner, obviously we like to do these things in person, which is impossible at the moment, but hopefully we'll be back there soon. The objective of the day is to talk about some of the topics in professional services and how we can all, as professional services firm, thrive in today's environment. So I hope this goes all right. If it doesn't, I'll put it down to the fact that yesterday I was 50 and drank slightly too much red wine last night, which was great while I was doing it, but not so great today. So been interesting being 50 in this current climate. This week's been fantastic because I've been to the pub, I've been out for dinner, and I've seen some people that I haven't physically seen for an awful long time. I never thought that things that I always took for granted would be so exciting. For A&S, it's been a good week as well. A bit of bragging. We were named as Microsoft Partner of the Year finalist. For context, there's 64,000 Microsoft partners worldwide and nearly 10,000 in the UK. So to be in the top 3 is a fantastic achievement and something that we're really proud of. For me, it's been 293 working days since I had a face-to-face business meeting. What I've seen and what I've felt is that in 6 months, the pandemic, COVID, has changed the world, certainly changed my world. But speaking to my colleagues and customers, I know that effect has not actually been equal for everyone. Some countries have been hit far harder, far more powerfully by COVID, and some businesses and people have also been hit a lot harder than others because many people's activities depend on close physical contact or because of their age and skills. So it's been far from the same crisis for all of us. And today, many people have joined us on this webinar, which in itself is slightly interesting. It's difficult to make these sessions as interactive as we would want. And we've had far more people join than we expected, which is great. But given the questions that people posted to us, so we decided to try and make the session as thought-provoking as possible, whilst giving everybody a couple of challenges that they can take away and they can help themselves thrive in this sort of new way of working. So when we collated all of the questions that people posed together, there was 3 questions that stood out, which was, what are the main areas that we've seen business change? How have we changed? The second question was, what business issues is everybody seeing in the professional services sector as everybody tries to sort of make sense of what's going to happen, what is happening, and what the future is going to look like? And then, how do professional services firms change their behavior for tomorrow? How are they keeping their customers informed, their colleagues informed? How are we winning and growing new business? How are we dealing with our existing customers, and so forth? So realistically, we came down to these 4 points on how we've changed. And that was, firstly, an uptake of technology. Everybody went from the office being part of the routine to fairly abruptly working from home. And we've seen companies and people prosper and unfortunately some haven't. But they've all reacted in some very different ways. The best have obviously used technology to adapt their way of working. Face-to-face meetings have been replaced. I was listening to Microsoft's chief exec Satya Nadella delivering his Microsoft numbers to Wall Street, and he said that they'd seen 200 million Teams participants in a single day and 4.1 billion meeting minutes in that same day. One of the quotes that I like that he said also is that we've seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in just 2 months. So let me share with you what's happened here at A&S in that time. In May, we onboarded 27 new clients on our Windows Virtual Desktop service. All of these customers were mostly unprepared for remote working and were scrambling. In June, we onboarded 16 new local authorities onto Dynamics for customer service to help them with the COVID track and trace that had come down from the government when it was devolved down to the local authorities. And the speed of action from those public sector bodies versus their pre-COVID speed has been startling. A typical engagement for us would have lasted well over 6 months. For Essex County Council, as an example, it lasted just over 4 days. So we've seen people, as Nadella said, we've seen many years worth of digital transformation in just 2 months. And the two questions that kept coming up about technology as we were understanding it is how do we make sure that our people have the technology tools to make this transition, and do those technology tools make them productive? And how do we find, win and grow these customers going forward, especially with limited face-to-face contact? The challenge now for all of us is are we doing a good job of that? The second one obviously was work-life balance. And this has been a double-edged sword for many of us, and mental health has been high on everybody's agenda and top of everybody's mind. The plus side for me is that I haven't needed to spend many hours stuck in traffic or on motorways. I've had much more time with my family, which has been fantastic, although cognizant of the fact that thousands of people haven't had such a great experience and haven't had a better work-life balance. Many have been through furlough, lack of contact, poor remote working conditions, I should say, and loneliness, social isolation's become a huge problem. And the challenge for us as organisations, talking to our customers and to our colleagues, is hoping that we are all, and everybody on this call is first and foremost obsessed with how people are coping with that work-life balance and making sure that we check those assumptions every day. I think the third one that we found is in communication. We thought that this remote working would limit the communication with our colleagues. All of the evidence points to the fact that the communication has actually increased dramatically, albeit in a different format. But by forcing those businesses to move towards remote working, it showed that employees have strong communication and can still talk to each other on any level. The issue that we found, and I don't know whether you found it yourself, and certainly our customers, is with all of these Teams meetings we're actually doing, when do we make time for actually getting the work done? I was talking to one of our customers last week, and what they've decided to do is they're having their internal meetings in the morning, and then in the afternoon they're focusing on actual job work tasks. And the fourth one really for us that we've seen is flexibility. So traditionally we've seen employers being reluctant to embrace working from home, and even more reluctant to embrace flexible hours. And remote working requires everybody to trust their staff, which is sometimes easier said than done, and trust that they will be more productive and deliver quality of work when they're out of sight. Many people have been in the situation of trialing working from home out of necessity through this process. And now people who have been working from home and now have the opportunity to see whether they can be more productive, learn how to manage the time from home. But there isn't just one way of working anymore. There's actually many. And the question that we've been wrestling with here at A&S is, as many of you will do, and something to think about is, What does our business look like with people preferring to work remotely? And what effect does that have on leadership, on culture, on morale, and on our relationships with our customers? So the second question that kept coming was, what business issues are people seeing? So we asked a range of our customers, our professional services customers like BDO and Serco, and we put together this top 10, and it'll probably be familiar to everybody as to what are we actually trying to achieve here, and what are the big problems that we are currently facing. And whilst we can take those at a macro level, what I wanted to do here is just get them down to a sort of more detailed level of what are the top 10 things that are problems that we're seeing in the professional services area right now that we're working on. You know, we've got a lot of challenges coming up in professional services, not least operating in this increasing digital world, from where we've been, which has been traditionally a very traditional industry platform. And we've needed to, like everybody else, be faster and more responsive, not only with new and existing customers, but with our leadership teams, our employees, our colleagues, and also our partners in our professional services firms. Even more in today's environment, we've been thinking about forecasting, about revenue visibility, WIP management, and planning has become enormously important, far more important than it was previously, which has been a sea change for most of our customers and ourselves, as we realized that we needed much better tools for management decision making. And what we found is and some of the questions that were posed about becoming increasingly more competitive with us doing a lot of face-to-face work and billing face-to-face activity. But now that we are losing some of those costs, the bid costs still seem to be increasing. And the desire to improve the bid-win ratio has been greater than ever. And firms we've seen like ours are trying to build out more strategies as winning new businesses more and more complicated and difficult sometimes. We've been trying to build out strategies around how we're going to improve account management with a widening portfolio, how are we planning to sell more, how we're going to cross-sell to our existing customers, which on the face of it seems easier than winning these new clients. And as we've seen people costs increasing, because now that we're working remotely in our current climate, geographical boundaries have disappeared somewhat. And therefore, it's increasingly important that we're trying to deliver projects with the right resource, on time and on budget. And then really one of the key ones is maximizing the value from existing customers and around time management. How do we spend more time in the relationships with our existing customers? And how are we going to go about that in the new world? So when we're putting together this topics for discussion, and the third question of how do professional services change their behavior for tomorrow in order to thrive in the new world, win, grow, find customers, I wanted to share with you all just one idea that might help, and I'm privileged that Alex Lowe has agreed to help me with this. So, you know, in 2020, what we've seen is technology, digital and social is what everybody's talking about. It's shown us that the employees, where they've been able to, are very adaptable to change. And what we found is that where the conversations were, that will never work, evidently it does work. And this has been a big shift into this virtual business economy, at front and center what the new normal will be. So I'm delighted that Alex, who in professional services is an industry thought leader, has joined us today. Alex has over 10 years experience working in the BD and marketing area, ex-PwC, Berwyn Leighton and JAL. One of the things I know he's proud of is that JAL he led the first ever social selling program in the commercial real estate sector. The LinkedIn case study on Alex in that sector is on the screen now, and generated $500,000 of net new revenue and $4 million of pipeline in the first 12 months through social selling. And for the last 4 years, Alex has spent consulting to professional services firms, helping them embed technical and behavior changes needed to adopt social selling. And the reason why this is so important to all of us right now is, in many cases, social relationships are forming the basis and the bedrock of this new normal. So the clients that to name a few that Alex is working with at the moment: EY, RSM, PwC, Allen and Overy, CMS, White and Case, to name but a few. So I'm going to hand over to Alex now, who's got an interesting take on what the new normal looks like. So Alex, I'll stop sharing my screen now, and you can take over.
Brilliant, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone here. So just going to do a quick swap in terms of screen share. So
see if you can make that work, Alex. Eh?
Yeah, see if I can make that that work. So go into presentation mode. So what I wanted to do is take everybody through basically what I do with all the clients that I work with around the importance of social in terms of business and how this can be leveraged. And this concept has been around for a while now. The concept of social selling, it's a term I don't actually like anymore, because I think a lot of people have lost the meaning of what it actually means. You don't sell over social. This is all about how you use social to start and generate business conversations. This can be used to drive net new. This can be used to account-based marketing. This can be used for upsell, cross-sell, etc., etc., etc. And when working in the professional service space, this is as much working with lawyers, accountants, surveyors, through to BD and marketing teams. And a lot of everything that we do is focusing around shifting thought process and mindset. So if you're familiar with Carol Dweck, you'll know about this. If you're not, highly recommend you read her book, which she wrote in the late 90s. And typically in the professional service sector, we're coming at it from a fixed mindset. And what we're having to do is kind of reprogram the thought process around what social and social media means today versus what the opinion of it was 5-10 years ago. And this is how Forrester described social selling way back when. I think this was back in sort of 15, 16. And the key thing is this is around how you use this as a communication channel. How are you using it to talk to your intended audience? And even back then we were talking around, there's a lot of noise out there. So how do you make yourself stand out? And what I've noticed, certainly since everything, we went into lockdown and, during the pandemic, as we're obviously still in, the traffic on LinkedIn has just gone insane in terms of the amount of conversations that are happening out there, because people realize that this is now probably one of the only places you can now go and do business. I'm doing inverted commas, because we're not going to conferences anymore. We can't go and have that water cooler moment. We can't go and just have a catch-up coffee in a Starbucks or what have you. So what we need to do is understand how we're using a social media platform, in this instance LinkedIn, Twitter, but the platform is irrelevant. Your audience dictates which platform you're on, to start to draw attention to yourself, to start those business conversations. We hit a tipping point. So Simon Kemp releases this every quarter. This is the Bible of all things digital and social. I'll share links with Adam and the team afterwards so they can put it in a follow-up email. Over half the world is now on social media. So half the world population is now on social media. So if anybody is saying to you that my audience doesn't use social, they are fundamentally wrong. And when I sit down with lawyers and I sit down with accountants, arms folded, I don't use social media. You then list WhatsApp, you list Facebook, you list Insta, you list Zoom, Teams. And what people kind of are now not realizing is that you're on social media without even thinking about it. It's just baked into everything that we do. So this is how do you then start to build this into everything that you're already doing in your overall go-to-market strategy. Recent update from LinkedIn, we're now at 706 million members. It is the biggest B2B social media platform on the planet. They will get to 1 billion. There is no doubt about it. 2 new members every second. Now they've reduced the minimum age to 13 because they're now trying to capture the schools markets and all the data that is bringing through. Interestingly, it is the only Western social media platform that's got access to mainland China. Notwithstanding the challenges that are happening in terms of the West and China at the moment, if you're looking to market to China, LinkedIn is going to become ever more important as part of that. As of 2019, Business Insider, LinkedIn is still the most trusted platform on the planet. Interestingly, even though Facebook is down here, there are now close to 3 billion people use a Facebook products on a monthly basis. So Facebook, Insta, and WhatsApp. So even though Facebook's got its challenges, it's a huge platform. And YouTube, not to focus too much on that, second biggest search engine on the planet. And if you look at Simon's research, YouTube is the second destination from every other social media platform out there. So we're now starting to consider how might you use YouTube as part of your overall marketing strategies. A lot of chat around digital transformation, digital this and so on and so forth. And if we focus on what we're talking about in terms of generating business conversations, generating new opportunity, generating revenue. I was doing that 20 years ago when I was a recruitment consultant doing 100 cold calls. But the only way I could do things was 100 cold calls to get conversations with the likes of Adam going, can I talk to you about your sales recruitment needs? And what got me through the door was because I was calling from a recognized brand, Michael Page International. So they heard of Michael Page International, not heard of Alex Lowe. I'll give you 30 seconds. Fast forward to today, what are we trying to do? Exactly the same thing. Nothing has changed in terms of the business outcome that we're trying to achieve. I want more meetings, more revenue opportunities to turn into pitch, etc. What has fundamentally transformed is the digitization, if you will, of the sales process and the sales and marketing process to get to that same intended outcome. So my go-to-market strategy from 20 years ago of doing 100 cold calls has fundamentally transformed to get to that same output of getting business meetings to talk around how I can help organizations digitally transform in their sales and marketing capacities. And where we are now, and this is research from Gartner last summer, so pre-COVID, is that we're now using digital in every stage of our buying journey. Sales is no longer kind of this straightforward linear process. There are multiple stakeholders, multiple people that we need to influence. And it's this point here, giving customers an entry point on their own terms. Every single employee who has a LinkedIn profile can be that entry point. Every single employee who shares a post from a corporate perspective is giving an entry point to somebody who might be interested in talking to you. And the other point he says is just because in-person begins doesn't mean online ends. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that even when you're having conversations, be it in this virtual world, be it when we come back to the face-to-face environment, you still need to nurture and maintain your presence in the online environment. This is the complexity of most high-value complex purchases. This is the internal buying process that typically needs to happen. LinkedIn says there are now 6.8 decision makers per complex transaction. So you've got 6.8 of these things happening. And everything that is blue is, and this is pre-COVID, everything that is blue is where digital touch points are happening. So if you are not making it as easy as possible for your intended audience to buy from you, think in your own world, when things are really easy and nice and slick to do, you're more likely to lean that way in terms of this as a nice buying journey versus those, oh, I've been interrupted by an email from somebody I don't know. The download is gated, I've got to put an email address in. It doesn't work properly on the mobile phone. This kind of frustrates that overall buying journey. And there is this blend between business to consumer and business to business, because 1 minute you're in an Uber app, a Deliveroo app, your Tesco delivery app, to then a clunky web interface. It frustrates us. And obviously now everything is digital as we see it. So you've got to really start to consider what is that overall buying journey. And this is the world of, if you're interested, customer journey orchestration. If you put that into Google, lots of stuff around that. The world of employee advocacy has been around for ages. This is where we're now at. We need to start to activate your entire workforce as advocates for you as a brand. This can help drive sales messages, marketing messages, purpose. Big conversation around purpose. Let's not shy away from it. Black Lives Matter, diversity and inclusion, LGBT, all this stuff is becoming ever more important. And you can use this is the beauty of it. It's exactly the same behaviors and tactics. The content will dictate the audience that you want to talk to. And through employee advocacy, people are saying at the moment that LinkedIn is probably where Facebook was 10 years ago. You can get really good organic reach. So you're not paying. If you know how the algorithm is working and start to get that to work for you, you can get up to a 500% increase in terms of your marketing reach. So you can start to, in theory, get a 500x increase in the spend on the marketing materials that you are, or the sales materials that you are creating. And what is interesting, if you're not following Onalytica, I suggest you go and do it, because they released some really cool stuff around all of this. And they've just released a report. Again, I'll share it with Adam and the team for you to access, around the professional service. And this is employees in terms of share of voice, so share of voice on social around particular subjects. And we can see up here, PwC knocking it out of the park, followed by Atos, Booz, and so on. And then we start to go here. All these companies are in the negative, so they're losing share of voice. So there's now insights and research to start to help you understand how much impact am I having, not only at a corporate level, but also at an employee level. And what Onalytica refer to is the anomaly influencer within your own organization, who's got a great network, a great community. Start leveraging that exactly the same way influencer marketing works on Instagram or Facebook or what have you. Start to use your employees in the same way. Moving into the world of data, because we all get sucked into the vanity metrics. Website visits, downloads, email open rates, email unsubscribe rates, when people visit your LinkedIn profile, when people look at your post. All of this is signaling some form of intent of interest or lack of interest. And it's terrifying, the amount of organizations that I talk to, including CMOs, heads of marketing, BD leads, who just are not even thinking about where this is all going, and how, if you actually understand this and use technology solutions and platforms to guide you, you can start to reduce cost of sales, speed up pitch processes, start to pitch and work with organizations that want to talk to you, rather than blindly prospecting someone for 6 months and go, oh, in, let's say, NS's case, sorry, we just signed Salesforce 6 months ago. You've just wasted 6 months of time, whereas now there's insights and tools that can enable you to do this. So things like, if you have LinkedIn Premium, such as Sales Navigator, you can get insight in terms of your posts. So there's no point getting excited about 4,000 views if all the companies that are looking at my posts are people that would never buy my services. So I can start to use data to understand, am I landing in the right place on LinkedIn? There are 706 million people on LinkedIn, but I want to make sure I'm landing in the right place. And yes, I am. It's landing exactly where I want. Tools such as Bombora or Spiker, this is the next level of all of this. So I use the free version on Bombora. I'm listening to all these keywords, and what they do, I get an email every Monday morning where they tell me these are the organizations that are researching, downloading white papers at scale, the subjects that you sell and market to. So now I'm leveraging this type of data as well to go and have and sometimes I'll take a picture of this and go to Gallup and go, well, you may well not think that this is happening, but it is happening. So we need to have a conversation. This can then start to drive content strategy, marketing strategy, based on what your organizations are doing. And we work with large SaaS players, and they're starting to build all of this into their account-based marketing strategies. Because this is ultimately fundamentally what we are trying to do. We want to sell through your networks, not to your networks. We need to, because CTOs are connected to other CTOs, CFOs are other CFOs, FDs, general counsel, doesn't matter. We kind of congregate in our own little what's the word I'm looking for? Not fiefdoms, but communities, if you will. So we need to start to activate those networks by selling through them and not to them. But that only works if you, as an organization, are actively connecting to your customers, your client base, anybody that you do business with. Because this is ultimately what a social media platform is. It's a living, breathing ecosystem that you need to feed. So if you're just sitting there passively not doing anything, versus the competition, so the PwCs of the world that are out there having an opinion, getting involved in the conversations, you'll start to fall by the wayside because they are always present. They're always front of mind within their intended audience who might want to buy their services. And here's Simon in terms of, I think this is really interesting, his view on things in terms of, I've touched on this, social media is a layer that permeates almost every aspect of our lives, my advice would be less about populating a content calendar and just broadcasting stuff and focusing more on identifying and initiating the conversations that matter the most to you. So that's what Onalytica looks like. It's the conversations. And what we are seeing, certainly in the algorithm changes that LinkedIn made in May around dwell time, those that start to comment, like, share, engage are getting much more return versus those that just sit there passively or just broadcast corporate content. Something is definitely happening at LinkedIn behind the scenes in terms of the algorithmic changes at the moment and what's happening. So it'll be interesting to see if they've got any ideas, what's coming out of that, what we see towards the end of this year. But at the end of the day, everything that I talk to organizations about in terms of the technical requirements, the behavior changes that are required, it all comes down to content, all comes down to the story that you're trying to tell, because we all do it. Scroll, 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 pause, scroll, 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 pause. And what we're trying to do, back to the employee advocacy piece, is help you create that pause effect. So people are pausing on your employee profiles over and above somebody else. So I'm now just going to dive into Sales Navigator. Adam, I'm happy to pause there and take any questions if that's appropriate, or we can crack on.
Well, I think the word you were looking for in today's environment, Alex, was bubble. Mm-hmm. So we're all in our own little bubble. So listen, any quick pause there, good time to pause. What I asked Alex to do also is, as we move into the times of uncertainty and how we're going to find, win and grow these clients, the one idea that I'm sharing with you obviously is this social selling and how to use some of the tools to do it. And I asked Alex to give a quick demo of Sales Navigator for those who haven't seen it. It's a very powerful tool. For those who have seen it, and most of my friends, colleagues all use some version of this, most of them use it badly. Most of the organizations we see use it badly as well. So I asked Alex to give us a quick show and tell of how to use this effectively and a couple of top tips. So Alex, interest of time, 36 minutes past 5. Let's just go right ahead for the next few minutes.
Yep. Fine.
And show us what we should all be doing, which many of us aren't.
Perfect. First and foremost, I have no commercial relationship with LinkedIn or Microsoft, so this is purely based on my experience of using it. I've been on the platform since it first came to market 7 years ago. So on LinkedIn.com, you're only as good as your network, and you are at the mercy of the algorithm. You're at the mercy of advertising. With Sales Navigator, think of it as a CRM system for LinkedIn. So with this tool, you then have access to all 706 million people on the platform. There is no algorithm to worry about. You literally treat it as a CRM system. It pretty much syncs with, of course, Dynamics and any other platforms out there. The beauty is, because obviously this is now owned by Microsoft, if you have Dynamics and and Sales Navigator, you get a lot more bells and whistles with that integration over other CRM systems, where you have to work a bit harder to make the integration work. That's why Salesforce tried to veto the acquisition way back when, because they were just pissed off they didn't get it, because they knew Microsoft now has the most up-to-date CRM system on the planet. So in simple terms, you set it up as an account or leads. So all this information I'm seeing is because I have told the system I want to see this information. I'm interested in this organization, or I'm interested in this person. An account is what it is. It's an organization, and a lead is a person. So in terms of a lead, you can save somebody as a lead on Sales Navigator, even if you're not connected to them. What that then does is start to track what they're doing. Now, if anybody starts thinking this is super stalking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I encourage you to bother going read the terms of business that LinkedIn provides us. We sign our lives away in terms of when you sign up to them as a platform. They say we sell to sales solutions, marketing solutions, and recruitment solutions. You can opt out of all these things, but of course, when you make yourself more private on LinkedIn, the less they give you. So you then treat it as a CRM system. So in simple terms, I'm now seeing what everybody's sharing. So even though some of these people I'm connected to, I may miss it in LinkedIn because of what's happening. What it also does at a corporate level is it creates a virtual network. So let's say you have, I don't know, 1,000 licenses for the sake of argument. What that then means is every single person who's on that license then becomes virtually connected. So you're now all within the Sales Navigator community, so you can then start to see who knows who. So that's through something called TeamLink. Now, what that means in the real world, I'm just going to dive into a client has very kindly given me access to their tool. So I'll come back to how we got to this point, but I just want to explain TeamLink because this is probably one of the single most powerful aspects of Sales Navigator, which so few people, even LinkedIn, dare I say, seem to be able to articulate in a simple way. So this organization is a large organization, has a large number of, and I'm talking double-digit level of licenses. So we can see 160,000 employees at Microsoft. But within this company, they have 20,000 introductions within their own business to people at Microsoft. So if I scroll down to show you how this works. So Jonathan Schwartz, he is third removed from this individual here at this company. So he's miles out of his network. But if he wanted to connect to Jonathan, in LinkedIn.com, he'd probably never appear in a search anyway. But from here, if I click on TeamLink introduction, what this is doing, so Robin works at the same organization as this individual. He's third removed, so they're not even connected on LinkedIn, but because they are both on the Sales Navigator platform together, Sales Navigator is creating that virtual map within this organization. And we all know that a referral route in is the quickest route into starting any business conversation, cross-selling or net new. When I leveraged this at JLL, we had 150 licenses. I generated £100,000 opportunity through TeamLink. I'm not social selling, I'm not posting stuff, I'm literally leveraging the relationship of the organization to uncover who knows who.
So Alex, it's Adam, let me just ask a quick question. So this is somebody who works in a professional services firm who wants to get introduced to Jonathan at Microsoft and is wondering, how am I going to do that?
Exactly.
And they are using the people that their colleagues in their organization know in order to get access to Jonathan.
Yes, exactly. And the beauty with LinkedIn is there are relationships on LinkedIn which may never ever see a CRM system because the individual doesn't see it as that type of relationship, but that relationship could massively help unlock an opportunity. So real world example, when I did this back in my previous life, it was a university relationship that unlocked £100,000 opportunity. We then had to go on and pitch and win. And this is the big misnomer. This is all about starting business conversations. However, if Robin hadn't connected to Jonathan, then we'd never see this relationship. So this is why there's a big misunderstanding that Sales Navigator is only as good as the behavior on LinkedIn. So what I will then do, I'll then come back into, I'm now back in my licenses. So if we go back to Microsoft as the example, so I go to Microsoft, I save it as an account. I've already done this. You can add tags. Within here, it starts to recommend people based on how you set it up. My first 3 connections, my second degree on the corporate license, you have the TeamLink introductions here and then university. But within here, I'm now thinking, okay, Microsoft is a big organization. How do I start to map through this? Well, first and foremost, I can now see everybody that's changed jobs in the last 90 days. So that's a sales trigger. If they've changed roles, is that to do something? Where people have mentioned in the press, and 47,000 people have posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. So this is the active people on LinkedIn, and this is where a lot of organizations fall down. We'll come back to that. Share experience is not so useful. And 5 of these people from Microsoft follow the company page on LinkedIn. So they follow my company page on LinkedIn. So now I've got insights and intent data based on who's following the corporate page. And we've done this with corporate clients. And sometimes their key clients, they can now see, aren't actually following the company page on LinkedIn, so they can do something about it. Let's say I want to sell to, I don't know, this IT director. Doesn't really matter. So I type in IT director. What I'm now looking for is anybody with IT director in their profile, down to 15,000. Let's say I want to drill it down to the US, even further. That's still a large thing. I then take it down. Let's put CFO. Let's just try and see if I can narrow that down a little bit further. So 928. So now I've got 928 leads CFO within Microsoft. I can save this as a search, so it automates it. I've got the change jobs in the last 90 days here. So again, sales trigger, hi, you've just done this new role. What can we do? How can I help? Is this a threat? Are they coming from a competitor firm which may want to bring in a different service provider or product? Here, so Victor is miles out of my network. He's posted something on LinkedIn. So what I do is I click on Victor's profile, and Victor doesn't know who I am. I will never see his stuff in LinkedIn, but I can now see what's going on. So if I click on this is now taking me back into, and this is the behavior on LinkedIn. This is the conversation. This is the community. So let's say that Victor is somebody I now want to get to know. I'm doing this quickly. There needs to be some authenticity behind it. I like it. So in the space of 3 clicks, I've now drawn myself into Victor's social proximity. That's why your LinkedIn profiles need to be up to scratch in terms of representing who you are. But of course, the 13 other people get a notification that I've done that. What I then do, I sit and wait. I might then ask for an introduction, but because I then have premium, what I can also do is then, because LinkedIn Sales Navigator is premium, if Victor then looks back at my profile, then I know that Victor knows that I've done that social action by having a conversation. I was only with a law firm this morning, and this legal counsel at Bridgestone, I did exactly that. Within half an hour, he looked back at my profile. I sent him a connection request saying, really sorry, I was doing some sales training for a law firm. Would you mind connecting? And we're now connected. And this is general counsel. So this is fundamentally what Sales Navigator is encouraging your sales teams to do, lawyers, accountants, I don't care who they are, is to start to engage with your intended audience and start a conversation and then draw them into your field of view. The capability of this tool is insane. If you then sync this with a platform such as Dynamics, you can do 80% of what I've just shown you within the CRM environment. You can then start to get really quite clever with all varying other things. They're also, I'll share the link with everyone afterwards. They have their Sales Navigator application program. So if you have Sales Navigator, you can now start to sync with things like DocuSign. If you have sales engagement technology, you can start to build that in. The one I'm really excited about is you'll be able to sync this with Microsoft Power Apps. So I'm being intrigued to see what that means, but does that mean we can now start to build an app using Sales Navigator data based on what you want? So this is the best lead generation tool, account-based marketing tool on the planet by a country mile. And with some of our clients, we proved 10, 20, 30x return on investment just on this, let alone what that can do in terms of driving better CRM behavior, etc. Adam, I will hand back to you.
No. So Alex, yeah, no, thanks for that. That's great. Just you know, it's 1:45 now, so just wrapping up in the next few minutes. Just wanted to ask you, Alex, your sort of top 3 tips for, clearly one of the questions that came back from the audience when we asked them was, you know, what's it going to be? What's business development going to look like in the new norm? How are we going to find, win, and grow some of these relationships and keep people informed? So, top 3 tips, really, if you're using a tool like Sales Navigator, what would they be? You mentioned profile area? Would you start with, what does your profile look like?
So first and foremost, I'd actually start with the what's in it for me.
Right.
Why am I doing this? So many clients we work with, and they have Sales Navigator, their perception is, oh, it's LinkedIn. LinkedIn's not no use to me. So you have to shift that perception of what LinkedIn is now today. And the beauty with Sales Navigator, you've got the data to prove that there are X thousands of XYZ people on here and they're active. Then it's taken them through the 3 main principles: profile, network, content. You need to have an up to spec LinkedIn profile, so you're not just another person trying to sell something. Sales Navigator is only as good as the network on LinkedIn. So if you're not connecting to people, then this can't help you in terms of, it can help you, but you're potentially impeding yourself. And the final piece is then content and engagement, because if individuals aren't comfortable just with even liking and commenting on posts on LinkedIn, then as we saw with the engagement piece, that's where people start to fall down. The biggest thing that we come up against time and time again is this perception of what LinkedIn is today from a BD and marketing perspective.
Okay, cool. So we started out the session trying to answer a couple of questions that have come to us. So how are people going to react in the new world? What are the issues that you guys have seen? And how has business changed? So our intention was to be as productive as possible, generate some thought leadership and some thoughts with within the session that we had with you. We've done 3/4 of an hour now. Wanted to thank everybody for the time. Any questions that you want, you can come straight back to your account managers at A&S, or post them back to the people that invited you. Or if you wanted to, my email is adam.spur@ansgroup.co.uk. So thank you for your time. Hope it's been really productive and inspired a bit of conversation, and appreciate you joining. Thanks, Alex. Thanks a lot for your help as well.
Thanks, Adam. My pleasure.
Take care, everybody.